So welcome in to another edition of the Parenting Puzzle Podcast with Dr. Daniela Owen. So if you're watching right now, do not click off. Stay on the podcast because it's travel season. It's summertime. Everybody's trying to get their beach tan on. Everybody's trying to get out there with their family. And sometimes that could be very stressful. So if you got a trip planned coming up for 4th of July or anytime after that, Dr. D has some awesome tips that she's going to share today and fire ants. So stay tuned for this amazing episode of the Parenting Puzzle Podcast. Dr. D, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Jake. How are you doing?
I'm feeling spunky.
You're seeming spunky. I'm a little itchy. I'm not going to lie.
Let's talk about that. What happened with that? I know you're itchy. What happened with the itchy?
I have this amazing ability to step on fire ant hills somehow. This is the third time in the past few years that this has happened to me. All very different circumstances. I was just riding bikes in the neighborhood, pulled over so everyone could turn around on the grass, stepped down. Next thing I know, my foot felt like it was on fire. Looked down, there were all these ants all over, so I'm like batting them off, whatever. And now I'm covered in fire ant bites. Not pleasant. I wish these upon no one. I hope no one who's listening has experienced this. But if you have, I feel your pain and I feel your itch.
So you have the literal itch right now.
Oh, I got a big itch. I'm working so hard not to scratch it right now. I'm working so hard.
Do you need an itch break?
No itch breaks.
Okay. Is there like a cream of choice to like?
Yeah, there's a few things to do, but mostly you just gotta wait for them to heal, and it's itchy. But that's okay. It's okay. I'm so happy to be here and focusing on you and talking with you and talking about some parenting tips.
Nice. So look, today we're talking about traveling, right? And stuff like that. And everybody likes to travel this season, like during this time. I think 4th of July is like, I don't know this. I don't have any data, but I'm going to say it's probably one of the bigger travel like things of the year.
Really? Okay. All right.
I think it is. That totally might be wrong. So if it's wrong, let us know in the comments.
That was not data driven.
No, that's not scientific. But we are trying to like plan a trip to Great Wolf Lodge in Houston and trying to do it for like anywhere like within that 4th of July weekend thing. You might as well take out a second mortgage on the house. Okay. So I'm assuming there's more demand. It's like a supply and demand thing. So we're not going for 4th of July. We're going to go at another time. So you just went on a trip.
I did.
A trip that I don't know if my face is going to turn green, but I was a little jealous about. You want to tell us about the trip? Where did you go?
We went to London for a dear friend's wedding, and we got to hang out with some other friends who live on that side of the pond. So that was really nice to get to spend some quality time with good friends and go to a lovely London wedding.
Can we talk about the best part of the trip? You went with just your husband.
There were a lot of best parts. What?
You went with just your husband.
Oh, yeah. We went with our kids. That was awesome. It was just nice to have a little break, and we missed them, they missed us. And I'm not going to lie though, there was a transition back. I mean, it took a few days for kids to kind of readjust afterwards. And that was interesting. And it was also like a good reminder that kids are sensitive to these kinds of changes. And so like expecting a transition is a good idea when you take such a kind of trip without kids involved.
How long was the trip?
It was 5 days.
5 days. So I think that's kind of like every married couple's dream that has kids. Like one of the dreams is to take a vacation without the kids. One of me and Sarah is like, so we haven't done a lot of traveling without the kids, right? But we've done it twice. One, like after our wedding honeymoon, right? Yeah. We went to St. Thomas.
Nice.
That was great. And then another one, Sarah kind of like won this trip with this side hustle she does. and we got to go to Mexico. So that's our 2 ones. And I gotta say, those are probably my 2 like favorite trips.
Well, it makes sense though, right? Because when you have little kids, vacations are more travel. They're in the sense of the word, like vacation, you think about like relaxing and having time off, and it's not really like that with little kids, right? They have to
Mhm.
adjust to the new environment. Usually it's a night or two getting used to the new space and sleep adjustments, and then there's all different kinds of routines and things are different. So you get to have the experience of being in a different place and doing the things you're going to be doing there. But it's not, for most families, it is not relaxing to travel with little kids. So yeah, I get that those were the ones that really kind of checked it
Well,
off your list for vacation.
with those, you come back and you're like rested because you could like sleep in, you could take a nap, you could hit the hot tub, you could be alone with your spouse, which is always good. I'll stop there with that. Um, but like, okay, I'll give you another example. So we've been to Disney World. Those are super fun trips, but it's fun in like a different way. I'm not like I totally agree because like a Disney trip regardless would probably be a little exhausting. Maybe with a spouse it wouldn't be that way, but like with kids, that's not the trip you like coming back. You come back more tired, especially Disney World, because it's just and
Totally.
more broke.
Well, that's for sure true. That's totally true. But part of the exhaustion also is like you're in this new environment and things are off, and that does have an impact on everyone, right? And so, one thing that can really help with that is just when kids get like really grouchy and grumpy sometimes when you're on vacation, even in Disney, the happiest place on earth or whatever their
Oh,
slogan
they
is.
get too. Oh no, they actually changed it to the most expensive place on earth.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. I think that's I think that should be their new slogan. I like that. So even when you're in Disney, the most expensive place on earth, there are a couple of things that are sort of basic that can really actually help with these trips. And interestingly, when I was in London, I happened to be walking in a park behind this family, and the little girl was melting down, and I was so impressed with the dad because like he turned to her and he's like, what's going on? Are you hungry? Are you tired? Do you need to rest? And I was like, yes, this is the checklist. Like, if these are the things that we don't always realize are the causes, but when
Mm.
kids start to break down, even in Disney, the happiest, I mean, most expensive place on earth, the first things to check in are they hungry? Because you're likely gonna not be eating meals and snacks the way you are when you're sort of in your regular routine.
Mm.
Or are they tired, right? So there's a lot going on, and a lot of times families want to maximize on vacations, but also it can come at a cost of kids getting really grouchy and grumpy, and it's sometimes worth it to slow it down and take a beat and have a rest or even a nap if that's possible for younger ones, to make sure that they can kind of like get up and be revived and have good energy. I can only say of mine is that they're completely different kids when they have not napped. And so that's a really useful thing for families to recognize. They might not want to stop what they're doing or shift gears, but the payoff might be pretty big in the end of taking that rest, taking that break. So you're talking about families going on vacation. Kids are going to be maybe, especially if you don't live by the beach, going in the ocean or doing things that are kind of different outside their sort of normal comfort zone.
Mhm.
And it's a really important time for parents to be aware of how they're responding to kids, because of course within the bounds of safety, I always want you to have your kids being safe, but sometimes kid will be in the ocean, a wave will kind of tumble them, they pop back up, they look freaked out and look over at their parent, and if a parent is also freaking, oh my god, are you okay, that was so scary, the kid is going to feel scared of the ocean, and it's going to really have an impact on their choice immediately after, and probably like down the road a little bit too. However, this is also an opportunity for parents when a kid pops up and looks at them to go, whoa, that one got you. You're so brave. I'm so proud of you. Look at you. You popped back up. That was great. That was amazing. Right. And so encouraging them on the coping not on the problem or the fear. And that can really have an impact on kids' confidence and their bravery and their willingness to do things, again, within the safe, healthy bounds that parents have to choose for their kids. But really being able to, even if you yourself as a parent are freaking out, like, oh my God, that was really scary, have them pop up and be like, oh my gosh, you did it. You're so brave. That was incredible. Right. That's going to really have a kid talk to themselves in a different way about what just happened than if you are really exhibiting a lot of fears.
Yeah, I like it. So you don't want to act like, maybe you could be like a little surprised, like, oh, thank God they got back up, but you don't want to, we don't want to freak them out.
Exactly.
Because I think what we don't want to do, because I've been in countless getting tumbled by waves. What we don't want to do is make them like fearful to ever go in the ocean again.
Exactly. And
Okay.
so, when you can be sympathetic. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. If they come out crying, give them a hug. But you're okay. You got this. You got this. You're okay. I'm so glad you're okay. Right? It's coming from a place of caring, but also letting them know that they can handle this. Right? You can handle it.
Yeah.
The waves are going to sometimes tumble. You got this. Just hold your breath and then pop back up. You got this. Right? And that's going to have a very different impact on their decision to run back in and keep running back in.
And that could go for all kinds of different things, like anything that they're trying that's different.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me what we talked about that other episode, which you should go check it out because, you should check out all our episodes because they're awesome. But it reminded me, like, we were talking about how, like, some people might be, like, afraid to try a new sport or try this or that. And I think just having that approach of just encouragement and, like, hey, give it a shot. You could do this. It's okay. You struck out. It's okay. Try again the next time. You could do it. Like, is a much better approach.
Exactly. And you can acknowledge the challenge and acknowledge the risk and acknowledge that it
Mhm.
didn't go the way your child wanted it to go, from a place of compassion and care. But really recognizing that when parents model fear, kids feel scared. And so if you don't want your kid to be
Mm.
scared of something, sometimes you got to fake it till you make it. You might be quivering inside, but if you let them know that that's the case, they're looking to you to model confidence. If you're not confident, they won't feel confident. So if you want them to feel confident or go for it or try it again or put their brave face on, you want to really do that from a place of encouragement.
Yeah, that makes sense. I like that. You're dropping the wisdom as always. That's why I'm shocked this podcast hasn't gone viral yet. Okay, let's
We're
talk
getting there.
about yeah. So on your YouTube, which I'm gonna
Yeah.
give a shameless plug
Thank you.
to your YouTube, but I noticed that you posted some videos about travel tips.
Yeah.
I think there was 3 of them in there, all
Yeah.
very good. You
Thank
don't
you.
have to touch on all of it, but maybe you got a family. We're going to Great Wolf Lodge here soon. Got some little kids, got a bunch of people coming. Tips for a family listening out there that maybe make the travel. Maybe you got a long drive. Maybe it's a different just to make the travel a little bit easier.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first one, and you can think about this for your upcoming trip, is, before going, what are your values or priorities? And you
Hmm.
can do this whether you're going with, just, a whole family or even just your partner, but really being able to think about what are the priorities and what are your values, what's important, right? So for example, you mentioned the long drive. So some families are going to have like a really clear plan that they want to stick to. And sometimes on a drive, you might see something that would want to pull you away. But if your value is to really hit your itinerary and do the things that you want to do, then it's really good for parents to be prepared for how they're going to respond if you see something along the way that kids want to do and you're not going to do that, right? So how are you going to respond to that? What are you going to say rather than getting surprised in the moment and being flustered? On the other hand, there are some families who see a road trip as an adventure and whatever pops up is game, right? And so if your value is spontaneity, you might be willing to skip some of the stops along the way for things that pop up. I know I always talk about Bluey because I love Bluey so much, but there's an
You do
episode where
love
they
Bluey, yeah.
Big up, Louie. They have an episode and they're on a road trip and there's this giant peanut and it was the opportunity to get around the slow driver. So of course the dad bandit wanted to take it, but the kids were like, we gotta go to the giant peanut. And so if your family value is to embrace the giant peanut, just having that conversation ahead of time, especially with the adults on the trip, that sets everyone's expectation and it can really prevent fighting, conflict, or disappointment.
Frustration, especially on the parents' side.
Frustration, for sure. So that's one really big tip I have. If you can just think about those values ahead of time and discuss them again with the adults on the trip, and sometimes with the kids, I guess, depending on your kid's age, that can really kind of set everyone up for success.
Yeah, like the 9-year-old you could probably have included in the conversation, but the 2 or 3-year-old, maybe not.
Exactly.
Or just make fart noises or something. Okay. Exactly. I'll say silly things.
It's important. We don't realize how much we need to drink water. And again, when we travel, like air travel is dehydrating. When you're sitting in a car for a lot of hours, it's dehydrating. When you're going to different climates and it's like warmer or drier, it can be very dehydrating. So actually drinking more water than you think you need to is a really great travel tip. And I know these ones are basic, but these are the things where families break down, right? Yeah. People are hungry and tired and thirsty and things didn't go according to plan. And that's where family vacations tend to fall apart versus if there are snacks and there's water and people are taking rest and people are communicating clearly about what's expected. That's actually when it tends to run more smoothly or as smoothly as possible, with little kids.
When they're not tired, when they're not hungry, and they're not thirsty, you have a much better chance.
For sure. And also for parents to I know I've said this before on our podcast and also, you and I talk about this, but putting on your parenting oxygen mask first. I know that's if you're on the airplane, that's sort of, they're going to say that in the safety announcement, but metaphorically putting on your parent oxygen mask first. So making sure that you also are getting your needs met so that you are not totally depleted at the end of your rope and then trying to parent through an unique experience, like being in a foreign place or, being in Disney where it's chaotic and crazy and there's a lot going on stimulating.
Overstimulating, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So just being able to make sure that as a parent, you're kind of doing the thing you need. I know I've talked to parents who are I just need to go for, a 10-minute run or walk in the morning to just clear my head and have a little alone time before starting. And that's a really good thing to do when you're on a family trip is take your little brief time to get yourself together so that you're in the best shape possible to handle the things that are going to come up within your family.
Because you're going to handle the distressing situation a lot better if you're not at the end of the rope. If you're at the end of the rope, we talked about giving ourselves grace as parents, but you're going to have a lot more of those situations pop up where you think back after you're I handled that really, really poorly. Because you're not in the best, maybe you're tired, you're hungry, you're stressed. All of the above. So if you are tired and hungry and stressed, and then the kids be tired and hungry and stressed, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, not a good combo for a smooth day.
Yeah.
So those are my suggestions for summer travel.
I like it. Hey, quick question. You don't have the picture of you looking like the Queen of England handy.
I don't have it. Okay. I did wear a hat, though. I did wear a hat to the wedding. It was really cool.
I should have had it queued up. Failing, man.
We'll show it in a future podcast, and then people can be motivated to tune back in.
No, bro. If you want to see two people looking freaking great, tune back into the next podcast of the Parenting Puzzle. All right.
Okay, so for my last word, just some real quick travel tips for the summer. Being able to take care of your basic needs like food, hydration, and rest are some of the basics. It seems so elementary, but those can really help summer travel go well, especially with kids. They're out of their element. They're in a new space. There's a lot of transitions. Being able to have food when they're hungry, have water more than you even think they need. Just give them the hydration and taking breaks for rest so that they can pull it back in and be ready for the next adventure is really important. Thinking through ahead of time what your priorities are for the trip can help everyone stay on track and reduce some of that frustration or disappointment that can happen. And for parents to also make sure that they're spending enough time taking care of themselves so that we're in our best state possible to help take care of kids and work through the inevitable hiccups that happen on travel, summer travel.
Love it. And don't step in fire ants.
And don't step in fire ants if you don't want to have the itchiest foot on earth.
Awesome. Okay. So please, please, please like, share, subscribe, send it to everybody you know.
Thanks for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please consider subscribing and leaving us a review. It really helps us out and lets others discover the show.